The Zindi launched their assault on the blue-green planet, relishing the coming slaughter. Unaware humans now lived there, the vicious warriors they'd soon regret crossing. Patrick Campbell slammed shots of whiskey in a sleazy space station bar, slumped in his stool. The grizzled war vet watched a holoscreen reporting conquests by the Zindi, ruthless mantis aliens seizing another helpless world. Zindi scum will control the whole damn galaxy in 10 years, the four-armed barkeep griped, hands polishing glasses. Galactic Council does shit. Patrick grunted agreement, liquor burning his throat. Unmarked aliens in black armor stormed inside. Hands up! A plasma rifle jabbed his spine. You, outside, now! They shoved him to a shuttle. An ornately robed figure waited inside, Mira, the Council spymaster. Mr. Campbell, in 6 months the Zindi reach Earth. So let 'em come, Patrick spat. We believe they don't know humans inhabit it. Patrick froze, implications crystallizing. If Zindi tried conquering Earth and met humans, the most feared warriors in existence, they'd unite the galaxy against mankind. Your mission? Infiltrate the Zindi. Stop the invasion before they learn of humans on Earth. You're our only hope. Mira's gaze bored into him. Because if not, once the Zindi discover humans, they'll come for you. For all of you. And it will be the end of the human race. Patrick's face twisted into a sneer. You expect me to help you, after what your kind did to us? He jabbed a finger at Mira. During the Dolan War, you abandoned us. Billions of humans died before we finally won on our own. And now, you want me to save your asses? Mira met his gaze unflinchingly. I won't deny our past mistakes, but if the Zindi find humans on Earth, they'll turn the whole galaxy against you. Every species, united in fear, set on wiping out humanity. You'll face extinction. Patrick fell silent, the weight of the choice bearing down on him. The shuttle trembled as it docked with a cloaked council ship in orbit. The hatch hissed open. Inside, Mira led him to the bridge. 5 figures stood at attention. A towering Krogoth warrior, a lithe Vespid assassin, a hulking Gorn mercenary, a small Norsean slicer, and a grizzled human veteran. This is your team, the finest mercs in the galaxy, hand-picked for the mission, Mira said. The Krogoth stepped forward. The plan is to sneak aboard the Zindi flagship and disable their sensors. Then we'll drag an asteroid into their path with our tractor beam, forcing them to divert and buying Earth time to prepare. Patrick eyed the aliens, doubt etched on his face. Could he trust them after what their kind did? But he was the only human agent who could pull this off. In the training simulator, Patrick sparred with each merc. His honed skills and raw strength overpowered them easily. He scoffed. You call these the finest? I've fought tougher in bar brawls. Mira shook her head. They specialize in infiltration and sabotage, not dueling, but your concerns are valid. Train them in human martial arts. Improve their odds of survival. Over the next week, Patrick drilled the team ruthlessly. The Vespid's lightning reflexes, the Gorn's unyielding toughness, the Norseans' quick wits. Slowly, his respect for them grew. Alarms suddenly pierced the air. Zindi patrol ship detected us, their fleet's charging weapons, the merc captain yelled. Patrick gripped the console, mind racing. They had to act fast, it was time to improvise. Patrick gripped the console, mind racing. Everyone, get to the escape pods now, he barked. The mercenaries hesitated, but a sharp glare from Patrick set them moving. As the team clambered into the pods, Mira grabbed Patrick's arm. What are you planning? Patrick shook his head. No time, I'll be the diversion. You get the team to safety. He shoved Mira into a pod and slammed the door, ignoring her protests. Once the pods ejected, Patrick opened a comm channel to the Zindi patrol ship. Well, if it isn't the mighty Zindi, he taunted. You bugs really think you can take on the Council's superweapon? The Zindi ship fired a warning shot across the Council ship's bow. Patrick laughed and launched into a technical description of the supposed galaxy killer he had on board, all the while frantically hacking the Zindi comms. The Zindi admiral's voice crackled over the speakers. Attention, Council ship. Prepare to be boarded. Your superweapon will be ours. Patrick grinned as his hack took hold, planting the idea of the weapon in the Cindy network. He remotely detonated a bomb on the council ship's hull, rocking the ship. Alarms blared and lights flickered. "Mayday, mayday," Patrick cried into the comm. "The weapon is damaged and unstable. It's going to blow. We need immediate evacuation." There was a tense pause. Then the Admiral spoke. "Dispatching a frigate to retrieve the weapon and any survivors. Stand by." Patrick raced to an escape pod, heart pounding. He watched as the Zindi frigate approached and latched onto the council ship with tow cables. The moment the cables were secure, Patrick activated the pod's launch sequence and shot into space. As the pod tumbled away, Patrick remotely accessed the council ship's navigation system. With a few quick keystrokes, he slaved the ship's controls to the Zindi frigate. The council ship's hyperdrive engaged, and both ships vanished in a flash of light. In their escape pods, the mercenaries watched in stunned silence. Mira's pod beeped with an incoming message, a set of coordinates from Patrick, a rendezvous point. Days later, the mercenaries gathered at a seedy black market space station, waiting anxiously for any sign of Patrick. Suddenly, the Zindi frigate appeared, limping into dock. Its hull was battered and scorched, leaking atmosphere. The mercenaries readied their weapons as the airlock creaked open. Patrick stumbled out, his skin stained blue with Zindi blood. He managed a weak grin before collapsing. The mercenaries rushed to his side, carrying him to the station's medbay. When Patrick finally awoke, he explained how he'd used the gravitational pull of a nearby black hole to slingshot the frigate around at immense speed, the extreme forces killing the Zindi crew. Mira leaned forward. "Change of plans," she said. "We're not going to disable the Zindi sensors. You're going to become the Zindi Admiral and order the fleet away from Earth." Patrick stared at her. "And how exactly am I going to do that?" The mercenary doctor stepped up, holding a tray of surgical tools and a vial of green dye. "With these tissue samples from the Zindi crew, some bone extensions and a bit of color, we'll make you look just like one of them, even give you functional mantis eyes." Patrick looked from the doctor to the tray, then to his own reflection in a nearby mirror. Patrick glanced at his reflection in the mirror, his face now a mottled green, compound eyes glittering. Bone extensions jutted from his cheeks, giving his face the angular profile of a Zindi. He flexed his new mandibles experimentally. It would have to do. "Listen up," Patrick growled at the assembled mercenaries. "From now on you're my honor guard. We're taking this frigate to the Zindi fleet. Fall in line and don't blow our cover." The mercs nodded, checking their weapons. The hulking Gorn hefted a plasma cannon, while the lithe Vespid twirled a pair of hooked blades. The frigate shuddered as it dropped out of hyperspace, the massive Zindi fleet sprawling before them. Patrick tensed as a deep scan swept over the ship, searching for weapons and life signs. After a tense moment, the scan shut off. The ship's jury-rigged IFF transponder had held up. "Unidentified frigate, state your business," a harsh voice crackled over comms. Patrick leaned forward, mantis eyes gleaming. "This is Admiral Zyrax. I've captured an enemy ship and require immediate docking with the flagship." There was a pause, then, "Proceed to Docking Bay 12, Admiral. Welcome back." The frigate glided into the cavernous docking bay, settling onto its landing gear with a hiss of hydraulics. Patrick strode down the ramp, the mercenaries fanning out behind him. A wiry Zindi in a captain's uniform hurried up, flanked by a squad of soldiers. The captain frowned, a scanner in his hand. "Admiral, your biometrics are not matching our records. Please explain this discrepancy." Patrick narrowed his eyes, drawing himself up to his full height. "You dare question me, Captain? I've just returned from a dangerous recon mission critical to our invasion. I had to alter my biosignature to avoid enemy scans." The captain hesitated, mandibles twitching nervously. Patrick pressed his advantage. "I've uncovered vital intel on the humans' defenses. Summon all ship commanders for an emergency briefing. Now." "Yes, Admiral, right away," the captain stammered. He barked orders into his wristcom and turned to lead them deeper into the flagship. Patrick and the mercs marched through the corridors, drawing curious looks from Xindi crew. The flagship's walls thrummed with the power of its mighty engines. The captain ushered them into a large, dimly lit chamber, the shielded war room. The walls were lined with flickering hollow screens, showing tactical data. One by one, the Xindi ship commanders filed in, taking their seats at the long table. Patrick waited until the last commander was seated before nodding to the Gorn. The massive merc tapped a code into his wrist computer, and the war room's doors slammed shut, locking with a clang. The Xindi commanders leapt to their feet, hissing in confusion and anger. Patrick calmly reached up and tore away his mantis eyes and bone extensions, revealing his human face. "I'm not Admiral Xirax," he said coldly. "I'm the man who's going to stop you from invading my homeworld." The Xindi erupted into furious screeches, some drawing weapons. Patrick held up a hand, his voice cutting through the din. "I wouldn't do that if I were you. My team has rigged this frigate with a dark matter reactor set to overload. One wrong move, and I'll turn this flagship into a black hole." The Xindi froze, eyes wide. The captain stepped forward, scanner in hand. He swept it over Patrick, then the frigate schematics on the hollow screen. His mandibles went slack. "He's telling the truth," the captain said hoarsely. "That frigate is a flying bomb." Patrick smiled grimly. "Here's what's going to happen. You're going to order your fleet to abort the Earth invasion and withdraw, immediately." The Xindi commanders glanced at each other, then slowly lowered their weapons. The captain nodded jerkily. "All ships, this is the flagship. The Earth invasion is scrubbed. Repeat, the Earth invasion is scrubbed. All ships are to withdraw to the fallback point immediately. Acknowledge." One by one, the Xindi commanders signaled their acknowledgement. Patrick watched the fleet's hollow display as the ships began to turn away from Earth. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the flagship. On the hollow screen, a new group of contacts appeared, dropping out of hyperspace on the fleet's flank. It was a battle group of Council warships, guns already blazing. "Attention, Xindi fleet. This is Councillor Mira of the Galactic Council. You have been deceived. The human calling himself Patrick Campbell is a pawn in our game. We deliberately leaked intelligence to lure your fleet into this ambush. Surrender now and your lives will be spared." Patrick stared at the screen in shock as Mira's face appeared, a triumphant smile on her lips. You used me," Patrick snarled. "This was your plan all along?" Mira inclined her head. "We couldn't risk the Xindi discovering the truth about humans on their own, so we used you to destroy them first. The Council thanks you for your service." The flagship shuddered as the Council ships opened fire, tearing into the Xindi fleet. Patrick turned to the mercs, his face a mask of rage. "We're leaving now." The mercs nodded grimly, readying their weapons. They blasted their way through the flagship's corridors, Xindi soldiers falling before their onslaught. The ship rocked as explosions tore through its hull, alarms screaming. They burst into the docking bay, racing up the frigate's ramp. Patrick threw himself into the pilot's seat, hands flying over the controls. The frigate lifted off, its engines roaring. Through the viewscreen, Patrick watched as the Council ships tore into the Xindi fleet, the flagship erupting into a massive fireball. The frigate shuddered as it leapt into hyperspace, leaving the carnage behind. Days later, the battered frigate limped into Earth's solar system, its reactor barely holding containment. Patrick leaned over the comms station, broadcasting on all frequencies. "People of Earth, this is Patrick Campbell. The Galactic Council has betrayed us. They manipulated us into doing their dirty work, and now they're coming to subjugate us. Prepare for war." Patrick cut the transmission, slumping back in his seat. The mercenaries gathered around him, their faces grim. "What now?" the Vespid asked quietly. Patrick looked at the failing reactor's readout, then at the hollow display showing the incoming Council fleet, his jaw set with resolve. "We give humanity a fighting chance," he said. "Divert all power to the engines. Aim us for the densest concentration of Council ships." The mercenaries nodded solemnly, moving to their stations. The frigate shuddered as it turned, its reactor howling. The council ships grew larger on the display, their hulls glinting in the sun. Patrick gripped the controls, his eyes hard. The frigate accelerated, engines screaming. The council ships opened fire, lances of energy stitching across the frigate's hull. Alarms shrieked as the reactor's containment failed, dark matter spilling out. The council ships loomed before them, filling the view screen. Patrick roared a battle cry as the frigate slammed into the lead council ship, the dark matter reactor detonating in a blinding flash of light. Brilliant, searing light, followed by a shockwave that hammered the frigate like the fist of an angry god. The dark matter reactor howled, the containment fields flickering, threatening to give way at any moment. Patrick wrestled with the controls, coaxing every last ounce of speed from the straining engines. The reactor's whine rose to a scream, the deck plates shuddering beneath his feet. On the sensors, a swarm of contacts resolved into a wall of council fighter craft, moving to intercept. The mercs, grim-faced, manned the frigate's meager weapons, a few point defense turrets, a single spinal cannon. Hardly a match for the council's cutting-edge craft, but they'd make every shot count. The comms crackled. Unidentified frigate, this is Epsilon Squadron of Earth Defense Force. Break off your attack vector immediately or you will be fired upon. Patrick froze. That voice, it couldn't be. He keyed the comms. Epsilon Lead, this is Commander Patrick Campbell. Repeat. This is Commander Patrick Campbell. Do you read? A pause then, Dad. The bottom dropped out of Patrick's stomach. James, his son. The boy he'd left behind so long ago, now a man grown, a pilot in Earth's defense forces. James, Patrick's voice cracked. I need you to listen to me very carefully. You have to stay clear of this frigate. We won't survive this, but we have to stop the Council fleet. The survival of Earth depends on it. I don't understand. Where have you been? Why are you doing this? Patrick closed his eyes, tears drifting in the zero-G. I'm sorry, son. I'm sorry I left you alone for so long. But I need you to be strong now. Earth needs you. Keep her safe. Don't... His voice hitched. Don't be like me. Silence on the line, save for the hiss of static. Then, Epsilon Squadron, engage council fighters, clear a path for the frigate. The space outside the viewports erupted into a storm of fire and shrapnel as the human fighters tore into the council craft with nuclear-tipped missiles. Shattered hulls pinwheeled away, trailing smoke and sparks. Ahead, the vast bulk of the council flagship loomed, its hull shimmering with the telltale distortions of advanced shielding. The frigate's reactor was redlining, the temperature spiking. They'd never breach those shields in time. Patrick keyed the intercom. All hands abandon ship, get to the escape pods now. The Gorn's voice rumbled back. What about you? Someone has to keep this thing on course. Now go and... He swallowed hard. Tell James, tell him I'm proud of him and that I'm sorry. The mercs hesitated. Then, one by one, they filed off the bridge. The last, the grizzled human veteran, paused in the doorway. He met Patrick's eyes, nodded once, then was gone. Patrick turned back to the controls, his jaw set. He could see the escape pod on the sensors, racing away from the frigate, toward James, toward safety. He punched in a new heading, aiming the frigate's prow directly at the council flagship's bridge. Then he hauled himself out of the chair and staggered to the airlock. The suit locker was a twisted ruin, the armor within slagged by the heat, but there was one suit left intact. Patrick pulled it on, the seals hissing closed. Then, with a deep breath, he hit the override on the airlock door. Klaxons blared, red lights flashing. The outer door cracked open, the air shrieking out into the void. Patrick braced himself and leaped. The flagship filled his vision, the bridge viewport a dark eye staring back at him. His suit thrusters flared, driving him forward. The flagship's point defense cannons swiveled, spitting streams of tracer fire. Rounds stitched across Patrick's suit, breaching the hull, shredding his flesh. Pain, unimaginable pain, flared through his body. But his momentum carried him forward, even as the life bled from his ruined form. The bridge viewport loomed before him, so close he could see the shocked faces of the council admirals within. Then the frigate, reactors finally giving way, slammed into the flagship's shields. For a split second the shields held, and then they collapsed, unable to withstand the sheer force of the impact. The frigate ploughed into the flagship's hull, crumpling, the dark matter reactor rupturing. A new sun bloomed in the heart of the council fleet, a roiling sphere of blackness that devoured light, metal, flesh. The flagship vanished instantly, along with a dozen other capital ships, ripped apart at the atomic level by the ravenous energies of the ruptured reactor. Patrick, his body broken, his vision fading, had just enough time to see the council fleet breaking apart before the searing light took him as well. In the chaos, the mercenaries' escape pod went dark, all systems powered down to avoid detection. It drifted among the wreckage, just another piece of debris in the silent graveyard that had once been the council fleet. Aboard the pod, the mercs watched the sensors in stunned silence as the remnants of the Xindi fleet, freed from the council's control, turned on their former masters. The council ships, leaderless and disoriented, fell quickly before the onslaught. Only one ship escaped the carnage, a sleek black vessel that knifed into hyperspace the moment the flagship died, Mira's personal transport. In the aftermath, as Earth's ships moved to secure the battlefield, the pod's comms chimed, a message, quantum entangled to ensure delivery. James's face appeared on the screen, haggard, eyes rimmed with red. "This message is for my father," he said hoarsely. "Commander Patrick Campbell." The mercs glanced at each other, then back to the screen. "Dad, I don't know if you can hear this, but I wanted you to know I understand. I know why you did what you did, and I forgive you." James straightened, his jaw tightening. "I won't let your sacrifice be in vain. I'll keep Earth safe. I'll find allies, build bridges. The Council's day is done. It's time for a new era." He managed a small, tight smile. "Goodbye, Dad, and thank you." The message ended. The mercs sat in silence for a long moment. Then the Gorn reached out and keyed in a set of coordinates. "Where to now?" the human veteran asked. The Gorn smiled, baring razor teeth. "To the future." The pod's engines flared to life, and it leapt into hyperspace, racing toward the unknown. You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.